They chased him out of there for wearing a MAGA hat and having conservative ideas. The Tesla dealerships were burned. All these conservatives are being assaulted. Please tell me where this is happening on the right. I really would love to know.
Basically, a white nationalist came in, murdered an old black man with a gladius because he was black.
How's that political violence?
You murder a guy because you don't like black people and you don't want them to have rights?
So you'd say Irina Zhurutska, that was obviously a political violence. The Ukrainian girl who was killed on the train.
I mean, that guy, if you want to say
here
that,
we go. Of course, when the shoe's on the other foot, it's never counted.
No.
First of all, I'd like to make sure that we can agree on a definition of what political violence actually is, because I think that maybe we have contrary definitions here. Brenton, can we agree that political violence is the use of force, coercion, intimidation, or damage to property by individuals or groups to influence political outcomes or punish opponents?
I'm okay with doing that. However, I think that there are levels of political violence, and the more serious should be weighted much more heavily than the less serious.
Yeah. So you said that the study that you were citing there was over the past 30 years?
Over the past 30 years, yeah.
So it doesn't take into account the LA riots in the 90s. It doesn't take into account the LA riots in the 90s.
No, it starts at 1990. So it does take into account the
So
LA
35
riots.
years.
So what I have here is it's not, no. Okay, so there were 3 studies, but the 2 that I focused mainly on, one was Cato Institute, which was 1975 to 2025.
I thought you said the modern day left.
Yeah,
How
then the
modern
other
are we
one was
looking?
1990 to 2020.
I thought you said the modern day left. Are we talking about the left now, or are we talking about the left over the past 50, 60 years? Because you added the caveat of modern day left here.
We're talking about, so I don't know where you want to put the delineation. Like I said, 1990 to 2020 is a good range to see this over time. And then, of course, also Cato handled, if you don't want to look at the 1975, Cato handled that, the 5 years from 2020 to now.
Okay. And so which study do you want to look into first?
I mean,
Which one is the key one? What's your favorite one?
There's no key one. Literally, these are just facts.
The pillar of your argument. So which one do you want to look into first?
I don't know. Take your pick. Let's do the CCJL.
CCGL. Can you link me the study or?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very interesting for a debate. I don't think I've ever been pouring through studies on that. That's not usually how this works, but if you want me to, I'll be game.
So the CCJL study, and can you have like a rough overview of what this is?
Yeah, it's hang on. I could tell you, but then I would not be able to type this in and find it. So just give me a second. Bear with me. Here we go. Send this across in the chat. Is this a thing we're doing for debates now? Is this like some weird what is it?
You should know about the studies
Jubilee stuff. No, I know. I'm fine with the stuff citing. It's just I've never actually it's pretty dry to just sit here and go through a debate. We can.
I want to know about the methodology of the study, and I want to know about who funds the study and who they are.
But yeah, the CCJLS. This is the yeah, here we go. The title is Far Left versus Far Right Fatal Violence, an Empirical Assessment of the Prevalence of Ideologically Motivated Homicides in the United States.
Right. So this is only talking about fatal violence.
Yes, because that's the most important kind of violence, and that's the one that I prepared for, specifically because of
you just agreed to the other definition, which is coercion and intimidation and all these sorts of things.
I agreed
clearly political violence
for the purpose of the debate going forward, but I didn't know that was the definition until you came in and said the definition. We didn't go over this beforehand.
We're in the debate now, so we agree to definitions during debates. This is what happens during a debate. You agreed to the definition, and now you're just focusing on one meta part of the definition.
Let me explain. My opening statement is what is focusing on one definition, because I was most concerned with murders, because this is in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which was a murder. Now, you said in your opening statement, which I did not know you would say, that you wanted to talk about violence beyond simply just murders. And I'm fine with doing that. We can do that going forward. But the fact is, you can't retroactively blame me for having a more specific definition than your more general definition. Now, if we had said this beforehand, before the debate even started, maybe we should have done that. Then that's one thing. But Otherwise, there's
No,
nothing
no,
there, dude.
this is pretty clear cut, dude. We're talking about political violence. We're not talking about political violence that results in murder. We're talking about that's the topic of the debate is political violence. You just agreed to a definition of political violence. So does acts like arson and mob violence and intimidation, do they not count as
Yes,
political
but
violence?
not to the degree that murders count.
But they're
because
still political
murder
violence.
is
So
a
that's what we're debating about. We're not debating about political violence that ends up in
I
murder.
mean, if you want to sit here and be like, if you want me
And
to
to
sit
get
down
definitions? Oh,
and go and
excuse
look
me.
for like what the statistics on arson are and what the statistics on poisoning are and what the statistics of like saying a mean thing are, like I can do that. But again, that would be something that I would have to prepare for ahead of time, where specifically I prepared for murders. Now, if, as I said, I am perfectly opening to talking more broadly about it. However, if we're going to talk more broadly about it, we have to actually do that. Like you
Yep.
don't just like chide me for not reading your mind and knowing exactly what definition you wanted to use before I.
No, I
even
think
met
that I
you.
was perfectly good faith about it. I came in and the first thing I said is let's agree to a definition. You agreed to the definition, okay?
You will
And
find
then-
that I
and
agreed to
then-
the
and then-
definition after
And then
your
I
opening
asked you what
statement.
study you were looking for, and this one was only looking at one part,
Look,
so it doesn't look at
James,
a comprehensive look.
This is.
Are you
we're
just going to interrupt
arguing
every time I
about
speak? I was
semantics at this
pretty
point.
nice to you,
Okay,
actually.
hold on one sec.
I wasn't
let's-
saying you were being mean to me. I'm just saying you're seizing on something that's not important. If you want to have this discussion,
The definition's not
I'm perfectly fine
important.
with having that discussion.
Okay,
Definitions are-
but I think
it's
it's
the-
fair. Hold on one sec. I do think it's fair just to try to converge on a single definition. There will be more
I
productivity.
am fine with that going forward. I just can't go back in time and change my definition and change
Okay,
all of
so
my
what's the one we
research.
agree on? What's the one we agree on going forward?
I am
We already
fine
agree on
with
it.
opening up the discussion to include more kinds of things
Okay,
other than
great.
murder.
Then let's
Though
do
I
it.
think
Here we
murder
go
is
right
the
now.
most serious and that should carry the most weight.
Shush, please. We're gonna, all right, pardon my, but here we go right now. We're gonna do that right now. Using the definition that you both just agreed on, gentlemen, please continue the conversation.
Okay, so you brought up a lot of different studies. We're talking about the modern day left here. And when it's not just about murder, tell me what your data set is and how that data set is compiled.
I mean, do you want to know what the data set in the study is? Because they say that in there. Or do you want to know like,
I want to know which study you're talking about, and I want to know how you get a comprehensive view that the left
okay,
is more
I
does
just,
more
I
political
literally
violence.
just sent that to you. It's the CCJLS.
So that's
you
only
look
about
down at-
murders.
Yeah.
So
it
now we're
is-
talking about political violence. We're not just talking about murders. Okay, we're talking about political violence as a whole. And you can look
Yes.
sad about it. I don't want you to be sad about
it's
it.
not that I'm looking
look
sad
sad.
about it. I'm just a
I
little
don't want you to be sad
exasperated.
about it. I want you to be chipper and in good spirits throughout the entirety of this debate.
Dude, I'm perfectly fine and chipper and in good
Fantastic.
spirits.
All right. Well, give me your evidence then, please. I can't wait to hear it.
My evidence for what?
That the left wing, that the right wing, that the left wing isn't more political, doesn't engage in more political violence based upon the definition that we agreed on.
Based upon the definition that we agreed upon? Sure. I will say that based upon the definition we agreed upon, murders should count far more strongly than any other form of political violence. Because I mean, if we go all the way down to, you know, violence meaning mean things that somebody says, you weigh that against a person being dead. I don't feel like you could take all of the non-murdery violence and put it all together and it would still be overwhelmed by the murdery violence if we're trying to say overall whether the left is more guilty of this or the right. Now, if you want to go and specifically go in and say, oh, okay, well, the left, you know, Antifa goes into street protests and they throw trash cans through Starbucks windows or something, then the left probably does that more than the right. But also football fans do that. So like the point is that if you want to be general, we can be general. If you want to be specific, you can be specific, but we can't be both at the same time. Just figure out like which is which, and then we come to our conclusion.
I think it's pretty obvious what I want to do, which is to not just base it upon one thing. I think we're talking about the spectrum of political violence. So we're talking about coercion, we're talking about intimidation. And I think that anybody with two eyes, anecdotal evidence is not a good argument, obviously, but anybody with two eyes can see that if a conservative goes to a college campus, just as one example, they need all kinds of security. They're going to get chased out. They could get potentially murdered. If Destiny goes to a college campus, his security is not so erudite.
So that is part of the game that conservatives play. That's what Ann Coulter does. That's what freaking Milo, you got to Google his last name to spell it, Opolis does. They specifically try to make people angry so people come out and protest them so that the news cameras come and cover them and their message goes further. So Yeah, I mean, if are you going to piss off a bunch of college students if you're like a hard right conservative and you come in there and I don't know, tell them like they're going to hell or gay people are evil? Yeah, you're going to get protested on a college campus. College students are notoriously left wing, and that's part of the learning process. So like,
Part of the learning process. And then,
Well, yeah, yeah.
they come out of it by the time they're 23 or 4, they get a head on their shoulders and they stop being left wing.
Possibly. It really depends upon, I guess, their individual life circumstances. But yeah, most kids start off fairly conservative. I know you and I kind of had like an opposite thing because like when I was young, I was like Mr. Young GOP.
Without
Was really into like the
going
first
too
Bush
far.
and stuff.
redirecting us back to the
And I
violence
think you
topic
said you
though.
started on the left. But my point is that there are phases within your life and phases within society that people will tend to move in one direction or another. And college is the one where they tend to move left for a while because that's the whole
Yeah.
point.
Look,
of
to be
that
honest,
is
we're
it's
not
like-
How
even
is that
looking
related
at
to violence, you guys?
we're not looking at why, or like the fact that people are left wing when they're younger or whatever. What we're talking about is the demonstrable violence that goes on when a conservative like Cam Higby recently went out to a college campus and he was assaulted and he was spat on. People they chased him out of there for wearing a MAGA hat and having conservative ideas. The Tesla dealerships were burned. All these conservatives who are going to Portland at the moment are being assaulted. Please tell me where this is happening on the right. I really would love to know.
I mean, the right are like shooting up mosques and churches and stabbing. They're murdering black
The
people.
right are
just
shooting up
black with a-
mosques
with a
and churches.
gladius.
Where is this happening?
Tree of Life shooting. If I'm remembering, the Gladius was in New York. Specifically, it was done, I think, around 59th Street. Though it might have been, yeah, never. But basically, a white nationalist came in, murdered an old black man with a Gladius because he was black for no other reason than that. As I said, most of the murders are race based, and that's on both the right and the left.
So why?
You
How's
had
that? How's that political violence?
You murdered a guy because you don't like black people and you don't want them to have rights. That's political violence.
Where did he
terrorism.
express that?
Literally to the police, like after he was caught. He specifically said, I did this because I'm a white nationalist. So
Right.
yeah.
So all the black people who are killing. So you'd say Irina Zhurutska, that was obviously a political violence. An example.
I'm not familiar with that person or that.
Irina Zhurutska was the Ukrainian girl who was killed on the train recently, and he said, "I got
Oh.
that white girl."
I mean, that guy, if you want to say
here we
that-
go. Of course, when the shoe's on the other foot, it's never counted.
No,
and this is why
again-
the left wing, you guys are just so dishonest about this, and it just comes out like that. It's almost
Okay,
just too easy to
well,
draw
first,
it out of
again,
you. You've
I'm
said
not
that
on the
one
left.
person is a race-based political violence, and then the other person is not. Irina,
So,
that wasn't political, obviously.
The person who killed
Give me a break,
the
dude.
Ukrainian woman, I was actually going to say you might consider that race.
Oh, you might. He said, "I got that white girl."
Well, yes, you might consider that. Again, if you look at the study that I sent you, it specifically has both the fact that like the reasons for committing the crime, but also the level of ideology involved in it. And from what I can tell, in the story of that guy, he wasn't part of any particular anti-white organizations. He wasn't a black nationalist. He was a guy that society failed at every point, and then it
So he's a
eventually-
victim.
I mean, in a way, everyone's a victim all
He's
the
just
time.
he's
but,
like the hungry people who are stealing just because they're hungry.
I would say he's batshit insane, and he killed somebody.
Oh yeah,
because he's
and
not
the white
acting-
guy who walked into the place and shot the black guy, he was just fine upstairs.